experienced repression from a very powerful regional actor that is consistently at battle with America's vassal state, Israel, in the region. That is. Let's talk about Iran. Iran, ladies and gentlemen, the story that everyone has been waiting for. Okay. Obviously, this is something that took place in Los Angeles, where a U-Haul driver, possibly an MEK supporter, drove his van, his U-Haul van, into a crowd of Shah supporters. So the diaspora is fighting amongst itself. You know, blood is in the water. But this, of course, comes after days of protests exploding all over Iran, and the government shutting off access to the internet, as they usually do in times like this, only to stamp out these protests in the most violent and repressive ways possible. The protests have been going on for 11 days at this point, and they have been incredibly bloody. Both the government security forces killing a bunch of protesters, including like random innocent civilians, as far as we understand, but also the security forces killing a bunch of protesters, and the protests themselves that have actually killed a bunch of members of the police. What? Typo? Sorry. What's the typo? Why did you link me my own tweet? This dude is wearing a quality Leering Center hoodie that he made and can't even tie his own shoelace. Can't even tie his own shoelaces. Oh. No.
Positive billionaires who you think are creating.
All right, well, I edited it. As I was saying, where was I? I was talking about Iran. So, as I was saying, there were security forces that killed a bunch of Iranian protesters, and there were a bunch of protesters that killed Iranian security forces, the police. There was reports of even a firefighter being lit on fire, mosques being attacked. And even though the past iterations, and including this one, of protests and mass discontent that has led to violent protests in general, like violent response from the administration, from the regime, in general, has often been talked about on geopolitical terms, whether it's like Mossad-backed, CIA-backed, and there's truth to all of that. Ultimately, I mean, there is a valid reason for why a lot of the youth in Iran especially are protesting. As I've said over and over again, in as far as how these things go, the American government is obviously very impactful as far as destroying the Iranian economy, and the Iranian economy has been thoroughly destroyed. The inception point for these protests came from the rial losing almost all of its worth, and shopkeepers not being able to stock their own stores. That initially started off as a smaller protest on the economy has exploded into this massive thing. Okay? And there are obviously numerous reasons for it, as I've talked about over and over again. One of the major factors, of course, is the sanctions that are specifically designed to destroy the Iranian economy so that Iranians mobilize against the administration. So in that regard, there is a lot of Western involvement. Having said that, however, to say that the administration's own responsibility here in terms of not leaning into any reforms or whatsoever is not playing a major role in the discontent would be silly. Okay? Let's be real. This is something I've talked about before as well, over and over again. One of the biggest issues with the Islamic Republic is the repressive nature of the regime. Iran, contrary to what people think about it, contrary to what people know about it, is actually an incredibly educated and somewhat very woke society. And by that, I mean the Iranian population is very woke and very educated. Okay. I mean, they have, I think I saw one of these guys who's not like exactly aligned with me. I forget what his name is, but I saw a post about like how people misunderstand how the Iranian society operates, how Iranian people operate. That basically said, you know, the Islamic Republic wants women to wear the hijab, but they want the hijabis to build the rockets. And I think that's a pretty solid way to summarize the situation, where they want female engineers. They just want the female engineers to be hijabi, right? And of course, there are a lot of people who don't want that. A lot of people in Iran that don't find that to be that find that level of repression to be unacceptable. And as far as, oh yeah, this is it. People don't here. This was the take. People don't understand the mindset of the Islamic Republican in the slightest. They are not looking for personal enrichment. Assad. They are not a sponsored state like North Korea. They're not a foreign clan ruling over an occupied country. They are a homegrown ideological movement with a large base of support. Exactly, approximately 1/4 of the country is firmly committed to this support. Okay, they're firmly committed to this ideological movement. This is why it's a little different. Okay. They are motivated by nationalism, anti-Westernism. These first two draw their leftist and secular supporters inside of Iran. This person is not talking about outside of Iran. He's talking about people inside of Iran that still find themselves in support of the current administration in Iran, and a desire to cultivate a society that is both modern and Islamic. This last part is where most people get lost. They can imagine that Iranians want true sovereignty, or that they hate the West like other global Southerners. It's hard for Westerners to understand that Iranians are not the Taliban. They don't want to deprive women of education. They want a hijabi to design the missiles. Okay? This is why Qasem Soleimani was to Ardeshir Zahedi a soldier of Iran, nationalism, to third worldists and anti-imperialists, and to people in Iran fighting for values. This is the reality. Iran is an incredibly, incredibly complex and incredibly diverse country, okay? Many different sects, different religions, and many different ethnic groups exist under one nation's boundaries. A nation that is built around thousands and thousands of years of shared history, okay? Perish. What? So no matter who, quote unquote, runs Iran, there is always going to be a tremendous amount of difficulties, especially considering that there is the Balochistan independence movement. You got the Kurds, you got the Turks, you got the Azeri Turks, you got the Persians, right? You have Iranian Jews, which are much tinier, obviously, in numbers, I believe around like 11,000. But ultimately, this is the reason why it's a very difficult country to, and Arabs, Uzbeks, yes. This is ultimately the reason why it has had a very, bro, that tweet is obviously pro IR. No, this person is not pro Islamic Republic, brother. Actually, that's the reason why I said he's not, he probably doesn't align with me on some of the things. Like, I mean, I'm not pro Islamic Republic either, but I am pro Iranian sovereignty. I'm sure you can get Sharkzadeh to clarify his take. He's a great content creator, but you're obviously misinterpreting it, if I'm understanding you correctly. He's saying hijab is not repressive or incompatible with modernity. You're completely butchering his take. No, I personally think not that hijab is incompatible with modernity, but I personally think that for those who are devoid of choice does become repressive. Okay? His take there is simply stating that people see the hijab and they think, oh, this is just like the Taliban. Women can't read. Women are not allowed to read. That's not the case. That's the juxtaposition. That's what he's actually highlighting here. Okay? I'm saying that some of the reasons as to why the Islamic Republic is seen in a very negative light, despite the fact that initially in the revolution it was seen as the most viable outcome and the most viable popular support receiving faction that would deliver Iranian sovereignty. Years since the Iranian Revolution has been met with tremendous scrutiny over time. Part of the reason why they have received this scrutiny is because of the repressive elements of the state. There's also obviously some speculation surrounding corruption, but ultimately the major force here is the economy. And the reason why the economy is the way it is because of the United States of America. Having said that, the way I've always interpreted it is, as a Muslim, this is just ridiculous. The talking point should not be about the hijab. It's not. For the youth that experience economic shocks and feel like and recognize a sense of crisis, that then on top of that, experience repression from a very powerful regional actor that is consistently at battle with America's vassal state, Israel, in the region, that is desperately trying to maintain sovereignty. They both derive their power, they both derive their legitimacy from being anti-Western, and they also need to maintain their legitimacy within their base. And in order to do so, they refuse to let up from they refuse to liberalize certain aspects of their governance, especially when it comes to the Ayatollah. Okay? Especially when it comes to the Islamic form of governance. Although Iran is much more woke technically than Saudi Arabia or many of the Gulf counterparts, there is still a level of repression that, paired up with economic instability, causes this kind of resentment brewing in the country. Now, do I think personally that if the led by the reformist presidents that have come and gone in the past, if they were able to successfully liberalize certain aspects of Iranian existence, would that have actually been successful in terms of keeping the population at bay, not frustrating them, and also refuse or also push back against any sort of intervention from the West? I don't know. But from what I can see, this is a part of the problem. Beyond the economic instability, there is a real element within Iranian society, specifically the Iranian youth, that don't like the Islamic Republic for a multitude of different reasons. And especially for the youth, a big part of the reason is the repression. I feel like you overblow that aspect. There are far more people pro whatever social norms the IRGC imposes than those against it. It's a Muslim country. The major cities are already relaxed. It's usually diaspora members or paid agitators or politically naive youth who are the biggest proponents. I agree the economy is a major factor. I don't think you're right about that. Like, I think that I don't think you're right about that at all. I think that there are people who are even normally supposed to be a part of the base that have said enough is enough about the sanctions and its impact. But then there are also plenty of people who are not a part of the base of support for the Islamic Republic that are very frustrated about the repressive elements. Okay? And then also add on to the pile the obvious paid agitation, Western intervention, both from the diaspora communities, but certainly from the CIA and also Israel, and you create a powder keg. I think that certainly plays a role, though. From my understanding, the way these protests are different is because the base of the Islamic Republic is on the side of the protest, ethnically Persian business owners. It feels like you're attributing your education and Islamic initiative to yielding more pro-liberal takes. It makes no sense to me. Women technically have more freedom than American women to be educated debt-free. Even if they liberalized, you'd have the same problems of instability down the line. No, I don't think so. I think part of the reason, at least from my assessment, and I do have my own personal biases growing up in Turkey, obviously, which is a secular country, right? And a secular country that actually saw a fairly conservative movement take hold and develop a regime of its own, the Erdogan government, using protection of Islamic liberties, Islamic practices as a rallying cry. And that change that took place in the country culturally, and that change that took place in terms of like repression, nowhere near to the same degree as like, what people experience in Iran, has led me to at least have some level of bias in terms of living under a rule where there's like, you're like what you could possibly experience as freedoms, you do not get. I think you're not recognizing how much that plays a role for especially a lot of young people. And simply discarding that as, or casting that aside as the silliness of youth is not correct. Okay. But to what end? Do you want them to become like France? No, that's not what I said at all. What I said simply was giving people the it's already happened in bigger cities. Like the liberalization has already happened in bigger cities. Just do it across the board. It's that simple. That's it. And not only after like massive discontent and massive protests, but do it as a mechanism of survival. That's it. But I do think that because the Islamic Republic derives its legitimacy from being anti-West, and in that side of the world, the most effective way to showcase your anti-Western bona fides is by being Islamist. Like, that is the most uncorruptible force. That's the way it's seen. Okay, any sort of giving up on that mentality will be met with resistance from your base, and that's basically what I'm trying to explain. Which is they're stuck between a rock and a hard place in many instances, where if they were to let up on that, they could potentially lose some of their own base, and then they couldn't justify their existence any longer. As a matter of fact, this is part of the problem right now, because the economic situation has gotten so bad that they're actually losing their own base of support. This is, I believe, the major reason as to why Trump and Israel didn't strike Iran this time around. Because they entertained it, they talked about it, but I felt like if they were to actually strike Iran in the midst of the protests, it would have actually whipped up public support back in the direction of the administration. Because that is what happened last time around. Because it's not like the Iranian people are oblivious to Western intervention. They're very aware of it. Maybe some don't remember a life before the Islamic Revolution, especially because the Iranian Revolution, especially because they were not around back then. But there was a reason for why the Iranian public, got together and deposed of the Shah. Yeah, also, for the record, another fact about Iran that a lot of people don't understand is that the Iranian nation has some of the highest density, highest share of college-educated populations. And on top of that, the female-to-male ratio at university is the highest in the world. That's why I always laugh when people are like, oh, the Iranian women are like, they're being kept behind. Like, these, you just don't know anything. That's not the case at all. Okay, so that is where we're at as far as this iteration of the Iranian protests. For me, if I was the Ayatollah, I would, number one, develop nukes instantly. And number two, work on, I mean, obviously this is stupid and everyone's going to say that's not going to happen, obviously. But like, I would work on removing the parallel state that I have designed around reasserting my power and make way for more socially conscious, more socially liberal forms of reform. Have a more laissez-faire attitude about certain things. Don't siege Leningrad, take it immediately. Yeah, I know. Well, develop nukes instantly, first and foremost. And I think this is a real, I think there is also a real issue with what the government has also consistently seen as like the number one ideological enemies, or at least the most threatening ideological enemies. And some might say, oh, it's because it's the socialists, but the socialists were aligning with Iraq, and that's the reason, or MEK. But that's not the reason. There are plenty of very progressive, leftist, socialist, communist Iranian writers, academics, organizers, and people that have existed throughout time. As a matter of fact, they played a formative role in the Iranian Revolution alongside the Ayatollah. And yet, they were cast aside, persecuted, subjugated. And of course, from an anti-imperialist perspective, while that is, that was a spectacular failure with long-term consequences, such as the only alternatives or the only options being for the Iranians, like leaning into Israel, CIA, or like the Shah, people who want to bring back the Shah, or people who want MEK to take over the Iranian government, which is neither of which are going to happen. The main ops have always been leftist. Bro, do you know anything? Are you saying if you were the Ayatollah, this is such pro-Islamic regime shit? Yes, you're right. Yes. Me saying that Iranian sovereignty is being threatened when there is internal instability born out of the repressive forces of the Islamic Republic is me being pro-Ayatollah, because you don't understand the English language. Yeah, I mean, there's this analysis as well from Ali Terra Noir. Iran's crisis produced a dangerous fantasy that the Islamic Republic can be swept away and instantly replaced by a Pahlavi restoration. Names, constitutions, policies are debated as if politics were a fantasy draft. This misunderstands the nature of politics and of the state. A revolution succeeds only when the embryonic new state, an insurgent organized hierarchy, is already forming inside the shell of the old one. States precede revolutions. The Pahlavist milieu is not a state in waiting. It's a loose milieu centered on symbolism and leadership fantasies, not an organized hierarchy capable of resolving the coordination of problems of 90 million people. 90 million people that are endlessly diverse, okay? Only 60% of the country is Persian, okay? When people go, oh, this is Persian, this is Iran, I am not Iranian, I am Persian, you have to understand, like, it is an incredibly diverse country. It would, as far as things goes, while there is very real interest in changing things inside of Iran, the reality of the matter is, especially if it was born out of any sort of significant Western intervention, the state, I presume, would collapse into a balkanized unit, or maybe like warring factions and numerous different smaller failed states. Now, of course, that might not be a fucking problem for America, or certainly for Israel, but that is a very reality if someone is not holding everything together. Okay? Is 99.4% Muslim as a unifying factor? Yeah. Okay. Is 99.4% actually happy with the rule, like the Islamic rule or the version of Islamic rule that they exist under? Come on, dude. Clearly, Islam or Islamic rule has been the connective tissue that has held it together for as long as it has, in spite of all Western intervention. But obviously, with Western intervention, the economic instability born out of sanctions and the rule that is perceived as repressive, especially for younger generations in Iran, it's not working. You can't keep having revolts over and over again, and then putting down hundreds of people, if not thousands of people at a time. It's just not going to work. Eventually, something's got to give. This is not a lib take, because the reality of the matter, as I also correctly pointed out, is that I don't know what the actual best path forward for Iranian sovereignty is anyway. You understand? A lib take would be to say, Free Iran, free Iran. We need the Pahlavi. We need the Pahlavi family. We need the Shah. We need the Shah come back, and I'm going to go and dance in Israel, and then I'm going to first dance in Tel Aviv, and I'm going to dance in Tehran, and Iranians are going to be happy ever after, and we're going to eat Cuba Day, okay? And I love the CIA, and I love the Mossad, and you know, death to the Islamist rule or whatever. That's not what I'm saying. China still has Hong Kong protests, and they're more woke than anyone at this point. They're under imperialist siege. I know that. But I'm not going to discount the people's real discontent. And even with the Hong Kong protests, I talked about it as well. You're saying balkanization is a bad thing? Looks like someone is jealous of balkanization and the good it will bring is true. The know your rights pin is so cringe. You're right. When an ICE agent comes knocking down your door, you shouldn't know what is an administrative warrant and what is a judicial warrant. You should just let them in to you. Okay? Don't worry. You can open up and brace for impact when they come in. But I do think people should know their rights. Overwhelming majority of people who face persecution in Iran, some of whom still in prison in Iran, we don't need an outside intervention. Reza Pahlavi sitting in his ass in Maryland. Mr. Trump, please, sir, bomb my country. Please, sir, I'm willing to offer you my wife. Yeah, I mean, it's just, this is the exact same thing that happened. Okay, this is the exact same thing that happened when Israel was bombing Iran. A lot of people in the West were like, oh, the Iranians are welcoming our bombs as liberators. This is going to fully democratize Iran. It didn't. It actually had the opposite impact. It actually had a rallying around the flag effect in Iran, from what I saw, except that obviously didn't last for too long because eventually the economic conditions set in one more time and people were back to square one. I don't think I am genuinely confused as to why they would bomb Iran. America would, because I feel like it would still have a similar impact. President Trump currently leans towards authorizing fresh military strikes on Iran, U.S. officials say, as the White House is weighing a last-ditch Iranian offer to engage in diplomacy over curbing its nuclear program. Because, like, the Iranians are very resilient people. They're very stubborn people. They're very proud people. They want their country to have sovereignty. And no, I'm not talking about diasporoids that are like, no, we should bring back the monarch, okay? At most, even if there is any call for the Shah to return, it's because they foolishly think that this will actually bring about some kind of liberal revolution or something internally in the country. It's not going to happen. It's not going to work. But then again, Trump is stupid that maybe he will bomb Iran anyway, in any case, you know, because he's a freak. Some senior administration aides, led by Vice President J.D. Vance, are urging Trump to try diplomacy before retaliating against Iran for killing protesters. Like, dude, we're so fraudulent. We're so morally bankrupt. We're so fraudulent that we think the best possible way to help the people that are like, I don't know, that have had enough of the economic hardships in Iran is by eating lead. Okay? Oh, the Ayatollah's killing people. Well, guess what? I'll show them how to kill people. I'll show them how to kill people dead with Tomahawk missiles. Like, how does that work? Like, think about it from an American perspective, okay? Think about it from an American perspective. America, the American police force kills like 2,000 people, I think, or maybe somewhere along those numbers. I don't know the exact number of how many people the American police force kills every year in the United States of America, okay? But like, imagine there's like mass ICE protests, or no, 1,100, sorry, 1,000. 10,000 dogs a year, 1,100, around 1,100 people a year, not 2,000. Apologies, I doubled the number. And basically, like, can you imagine if Iran was like, sorry, we're gonna lob Shahed drones in New York City because you keep killing your own citizens. Like, that's ridiculous. Yes, 10,000 dogs a year is real. Who would be like, oh, sick, thank you? Like, that's not, you don't solve anything when you do that. You do the exact opposite. It's not a solution to anyone's problem. Some in the U.S. doubt that Iran is genuine about its ending its nuclear program, telling Trump that Tehran may be finding a way to buy more time and avoiding American airstrikes. Aides have been briefed Aides have briefed Trump on the benefits and pitfalls of renewed nuclear negotiations with Iran. Trump currently favors attacking Iran, but could change his mind depending on unfolding developments. Some officials said Trump may strike first and then seek serious talks with Tehran. We may have to act because of what is happening before the meeting, he said Sunday. Trump is also going to put a 25% tariff on any country that's doing business with Iran. Oh, this is why everything that you hear from Americans is inconsistent. They do not care about Iranian sovereignty. Please, please, please do not fall for. And if Iranians come in here and try to tell me like, no, you don't understand. We want these kinds we want our economy to collapse. You're basically begging for your own demise. Okay? That's it. There are plenty of Iranians who are protesting against the government, not because they are upset about the repression that they're experiencing, but more so because of the economy. And the economy is the way it is because of America. We are helping Iran by killing Iranians, either through direct military intervention in the form of bombings or through indirect intervention in the form of starving them, by starving out the Iranian economy. President Trump says he's slapping a 25% tariff on goods from China, the United Arab Emirates, Turkey, India, Russia, Iraq, Pakistan, Oman, Malaysia, Indonesia, Brazil, South Africa, among other countries, because they're doing business with the Islamic Republic of Iran. God, it's devastating. It's just so. Iran is using it. Just the other day, an innocent young woman in the United States, an American citizen and mother of three, was executed by ICE at point blank range. The U.S. administration labeled her a domestic terrorist, while President Trump called it a matter of self-defense. The Department of Homeland Security threatened Americans that if you lay a finger on a federal officer or agent, you will face the full extent of the law. Here in Iran, police officers are being executed by actual terrorists overseen by what Mr. Pompeo has openly called Mossad agents. And we have the receipts. Does this look like a protest for freedom or the exact kind of scenes that the U.S. administration would never tolerate within its own borders? I'm not going to show you the video, but yes, that is, they light it on fire. Yeah, sorry, Arakshi, that's a bit of a whataboutism. You're doing the same thing ICE did. Okay, that's not even whataboutism, okay? It's worse in some ways because obviously they killed a lot more people, okay? But if a similar situation occurred in America, we would be nuking half of the nation, okay? There is no world where like American protesters take up arms and burning like churches, and then the American government doesn't assassinate like tens of thousands of people, okay? I mean, let's be real. Like, sure, the security forces and the police are an extension of the regime in the eyes of a lot of people. And it's understandable that they are frustrated, and it's understandable that their protest goes beyond and does turn violent, okay? But make no mistake, the only time it ever works is January 6th, okay? Get a bunch of socialists or liberals even to come together and stand in front of ICE agents with their weapons drawn and kill a couple cops, and let's see how the American government reacts, okay? And that's really funny also because the very same, like I want a free and sovereign Iran. I want a free, democratic, sovereign Iran. I want what's best for the Iranian people. Okay. And I totally understand why the Iranian population is saying enough is enough. Having said that, right wingers do not have the same consistency. They are the ones who are going, free Iran, Ayatollah, kill them, kill the Ayatollah. And then turn around in America and they go, ICE should be able to kill your mom. ICE should be able to come into your house, no warrant whatsoever, and basically pillage your cabinets and kill your family members. And sorry, you have to comply with all of that because otherwise you're not a good boy. You're a bad boy. So what are we doing? Comply or die. It's so ridiculous. All the while, we talk about like freeing Iran, and the reason why they're suffering is because of us. We are causing their suffering. The number one reason, even beyond the Islamic Republic or anything like that, is American sanctions. Okay? It's American intervention. It's specifically American sanctions. We're starving the Iranian population with this purpose. We're starving the Iranian population so they rise up. Okay? And then when they end up rising up, we go, all right, here's our guy. Here's how you should run the country. It's utterly ridiculous. Yeah, I covered the Minneapolis ICE raid where they walked into someone's house with an administrative warrant, which, yeah, and obviously Europeans are disgusting as well. EU's callous threatens tougher sanctions on Iran over brutal crackdown. I mean, they're disgusting, and I'm sorry, but Europe kind of deserves Donald Trump as their leader. Okay, they do. We've already seen this inconsistency in the way that they talked about Venezuela versus the way they talked about Greenland, and they kind of deserve being vassalized in this way and being routinely disrespected by our absolutely moronic administration in the most overt ways possible, where it's just like the ways in which Trump communicates with European leaders is kind of like insult to injury all the time. First, okay? If you're pro-Israel and you're Israel first, you don't give a fuck about the Iranian population. Get the fuck out of here. If you're America first, once again, you end up still being Israel first, let's be real, and you definitely still don't give a shit about the Iranian population. It's so crazy. And it's funny because, like, as I showed you with the Asmongold situation, the motherfucker's not even America first. He's like, oh, let's free the people of Iran. It's like, bitch, you advocated to kill Americans. You advocated for this regime to kill American protesters. Fuck you mean? Like, what are you talking about? What the fuck do you mean? Free Iran, bitch, free America from Donald Trump, and free America from you. Fuck. Anyway, it's crazy. It's crazy. It's madness. It blows my mind that people don't even like question this when they don't go, wait a minute. I'm not so sure if you actually care about the Iranian people or not. For the last couple of weeks, you've been talking about how the American regime should kill American protesters. Interesting. Anyway. We got Lindsey Graham and we got Matthew Petty. Matthew Petty says the point of the U.S.-Israeli investment in Pahlavi satellite channels, etc., is not to make the Iranian opposition more effective, but to make them more dependent and therefore useful bargaining chips. It's similar to U.S. policy in Syria, where they backed rebel groups at first because they assumed Assad was going to fall no matter what, then later because they assumed the country would be stalemated and wanted leverage over the outcome either way. Yeah. Yeah, it's the same reason why they, quote unquote, back Kurds, both in Iran now as well, for the record, but also all around. They will back these groups specifically to get leverage over the Iranian government and try to get them to do their bidding. Anyway, let's look at this fucking demon too. To the Iranian people, your long nightmare is soon coming to a close. Your bravery and determination to end your oppression has been noticed by the POTUS and all who love freedom. Like, what are we talking about, dude? When President Trump makes Iran great again, Iran great again, it means the protesters in Iran must prevail over the Ayatollah. That is the clearest signal yet that he, President Trump, understands Iran will never be great with the Ayatollah and his henchmen in charge. Those to all who are sacrificing in Iran, God bless, help is on the way. Incredible stuff. Thank you, Lindsey Graham. The Crown Prince's statement about the folly of negotiating with the Iranian regime and the need to act on behalf of the Iranian people is beyond reasonable criticism. Dude, they activated all the different groups. So you have people who are pro-Shah, and then you have people who are in the pocket of MEK. Bolton is an MEK advocate, an MEK acolyte, and so is Rudy Giuliani. And MEK has even less support than the fucking Shah in Iran. And the Shah doesn't necessarily have a reasonable amount of support either. Okay? Because I need you to understand something. Okay? These people have already successfully deposed of the Shah. You need to understand. These people, the Iranian population, already historically successfully deposed of the Shah. Okay? There is no fucking way that they will entertain Western intervention, no matter how much they suffer. They are incredibly resilient, incredibly proud people. I just don't believe that there is any world where the Iranians will be like, oh, great, we're a Western puppet state now. It's fine. I just don't believe it. Maybe I'm wrong, and maybe I'll be proven wrong, but I do not believe it. They do not want internal repression, and that's the most just and understandable position that people can hold. Okay? For sure. 100%. And there's a lot of internal conflict on sectarian boundaries, on sectarian lines. But the Iranian people must decide for themselves how they will be governed. Okay? That's it. That's it. There's communists in Iran? Yeah, they're all in prison, brother. What are you talking about? Yes, there are. They've been tortured, killed, and also imprisoned. So there are some communists in Iran for sure. I mean, they were fairly successful at a certain point. But they were the number one ops. I don't get it. Why is that funny? Because we like the Iranian communists. We like the Iranian socialists. And it would be a very different situation right now if the major forces that brought about the Iranian revolution that ended up winning in the power struggle were the actual Soviet aligned, or not even Soviet aligned necessarily, but like Soviet agnostic socialist movement. Which played a major role alongside everybody else in the Iranian Revolution. Was Mossadegh socialist? He was more of a social democrat, but even the modest amount of changes that he wanted to implement in terms of taking a new look at the oil contracts that were endlessly exploitative by British Petroleum was enough for the American government to come in and do a coup and get him out. And then put in charge the puppet, the Shah, which of course had no real legitimacy in the eyes of the Iranian population and therefore engaged in unlimited fucking cruelty. Okay? Secret police, like all of the things that people look at with the Islamic Republic now and say like these are very repressive elements, these are really fucked up. The Shah did, and then some. No, Mossadegh was a nationalist Democrat. That's why I say he was a social Democrat. I didn't say he's a socialist. Is Khamenei communist? No. What is this? Is the translation accurate? Turkish locals confronted Pahlavi monarchists attempting to attack the Iranian consulate in Istanbul. Turks were shouting, "The Shah is Zionist. You are dogs of America, and you are Mossad's dogs." Yeah, he's saying Mossad's dogs. They're calling him the dogs of Mossad. Amerikan uşakları. They said you're a servant of America. It's such a funny predicament in Turkey because like it's not like Turkey loves Iran either. Turkey fucking does not like Iran at all. Long-standing beef that spans across empires, if we're being real. So what's Iran's relationship with Turkey like? Not good. Not good at all. I mean, not great. Also, Turkey's a NATO country. Obviously, it's not going to be good. Think about it this way. Turkey's forces and Iranian forces, like Iranian proxies and Turkish proxies, were literally fighting in Syria nonstop. Okay? Yaşasın devrim ve sosyalizm, yaşasın halkların kardeşliği, kahrolsun Amerikan emperyalizmi ve işbirlikçileri. Ucube, ucube. He said, long live the revolution and socialism. Long live the brotherly bonds of all nations. Damn, goddamn, damn American imperialism and its collaborators in Turkish. How do Turks reconcile being so anti-American while being members of NATO? They don't. They don't even think about it. They don't even realize what it fucking indicates. Because the pro-American, pro-NATO force in the country are the nationalists. So it's not even like called into question. Everybody says they fucking hate America. Meanwhile, we're we're a NATO vassal. We're a NATO country. But Turks fucking hate. Like, Turks do not fuck with American intervention at all. Not realizing that half of the intervention that the Turkish government engages in is at the behest of America and American intervention in the region. But it is sold to the public as a security concern. It is sold to the public as a matter of national security. So people kind of bite into it. Because even with the Kurdish stuff, like, Turks, in some ways, I think, understand that Kurds are seen as like a proxy, a militia force against Turkey led by the United States of America. But they don't really think about how like America literally says, okay, you can go and slaughter the Kurds now. We're done using them, over and over again. Like, they don't even think about that. Like, do you think it's the might of Erdogan and the might of the Turkish military that America allows Turkey to fucking operate inside of Syria? No, it's because it's done at the behest of America. But having said that, there's also a lot of, a lot of drama currently between Turkey and Israel, which even got me fucking feeling a little, avspayrakları, if you will. Israel talking about how Turkey will never have an F-35 and that they'll only let Greece have F-35 jets, even though Turkey initially was a part of the F-35 development program and then decided to get S-4000s after the American government decided not to sell F-35 fighter jets to Turkey. And now Israel is saying, we will never allow Turkey to have F-35 fighter jets. That's how much fucking the S-400, did I say 4,000? Sorry. S-400, I apologize. Guys, it's been 7 hours and 25 minutes. I'm a little tired. It's real. Turkey's Erdogan told Russia's Putin he's willing to return the S-400 air defense systems bought nearly a decade ago, a move that could prompt the U.S. to lift sanctions and allow Ankara back into the F-35 fighter jet program, according to Bloomberg. And then, literally, the Israeli government intercepted this and said no. Khomeini in the 80s was the only actually existing non-aligned third worldist out there. Guy was killing thousands of Soviet-aligned communists, but at the same time blowing up hundreds of U.S. Marines in Beirut. He was the only one who really was against both the East and West. That's why both the U.S. and USSR were arming Iraq against Iran. That is true. He was the actual real non-aligned third worldist. It's an interesting perspective. He did hate. I mean, but that's how Iran is. People are like, oh, why won't they align with China, myself included? And that's just how Iran is. I don't know how else to describe it. They literally don't do that. Like, the only country that they have like long-standing commitments to in terms of security has been Russia so far. Straight up. But at the same time, they had no problems doing JCPOA with Barack Obama. So, like, if given the option, they would play ball. They would love to play ball with America. They just understandably fucking hate Israel. America respects Erdogan's intelligent monetary policy and wants to keep him as great inspiration for the American century of prosperity. No, that's why. No, that's why he got Maduro. That's why he loves Erdogan, and also he arrested Maduro so that he could learn from Maduro's operations and how the central bank should be controlled by the executive. These are the brilliant. This is the brilliant mind of the. This is the brilliant mind of the United States of America leaning into the nation, the glorious century of prosperity for America. Unironically, my parents say shit like that. It's time for a Chinese American president. I agree. Iran is kind of like DPRK, trade with China, partnership with Russia, attempt to deal with the U.S., hates South Korea. Every minute you're not streaming, Greece gets stronger. We get weaker. Wake up. We need you, dude. This is why I'm doing 7 hours and 30 minutes today. I cannot let Greece get F-35 jets and Turkey not have a piece of that action. Okay? That's right. I will not allow Greece to become stronger. Yesterday, Asmongold mistook a massive pro-Iranian government rally for an anti-government protest. There are so many people, he says with amazement. This is absolutely insane. Iran is cooked. Then he moves on until a viewer tells him to go back and read the description. Right after, Asmongold marvels at an AI video of a fake protest. He's the perfect representation of how Americans mindlessly consume propaganda. Today, millions of Iranians protest against American intervention following threats from Trump. Like the rest of Western media, Asmongold will surely dismiss them like he did for the protests in Venezuela.
But you can see there are just so many people around here. This is absolutely fucking insane.
Wait. This is Iran today. Absolutely massive crowds rising up against violence, U.S. Israeli-backed rioters and foreign interference. And not a peep from Western mainstream media, of course.
And so, yeah, exactly. Damn, exactly. So you're seeing a tremendous, like, as I said, guys, it's circling the drain. It's the beginning of the end. I mean, whenever you get confused between
I see. The Nick Shirley technique. I can't even shit on him because they did this in Cuba. And it was Fox News that did this in Cuba, if you remember, because this is like technique that foreign adversaries apply all the time, where they'll fucking bring out the masses to the streets to protest against like American intervention. And I remember they literally did this during SOS Cuba, where they had like the pro-government protesters that had like the Cuban Revolution flag and stuff like that, and they straight up fucking lied and said, look at all these Cubans that are taken to the fucking streets. At least the Cuba opposition and government have the same flag. Wouldn't the giant Islamic Republic flag tip you off? No, he doesn't know what the Islamic Republic flag looks like. He doesn't understand what the difference is. He does not. He what is the difference between this thing and fucking a lion from where he's standing? Nothing.
Oh, that's really it. And wasn't that post-pro regime? I don't know if it was or not. Let me see what it says. Violent U.S. Israeli backpackers. Oh, these are people. Oh, wait a minute. I see it. I didn't read it. I just assumed that it was one of the positive protests. But no, these are actually people that are supporting Iran. Well, these are all people. Look at this. Wow. And they're all in the, the robes and all of that. And they're all happy about it. So I did get it wrong. Okay. And so, yeah, it looks like there are a lot of people that do still support the regime, sincerely follow our leader. Yeah, well, we'll see what happens. Look at this. This is crazy. Oh, my God. I don't know if this looks like it's an AI generated video. It does.